Okay, I think I'm guessing we're live because 10 seconds probably passed.
Here is the printout of the cover page.
Oh, good.
I don't know if it helps.
Oh, perfect. It does. Okay, good. We're live, so we're going to get started. So welcome, everybody. I hope you're all tuning in. And as you slowly trickle in, we have the incredible honor today to have my dear cousins and the amazing authors and just brilliant minds and so much life wisdom. It's incredible. It's an incredible opportunity. I feel very blessed, and I think we all do. We have over here Vera and Lutzi Adler, and they just released a new book, and they're gonna share with us a little bit about this book. There's a link in the bio. Hold on one second. I'm just gonna open my version over here. It's the name of the book is Honor the Past and Build the Future: Two Holocaust Survivors from Hungary. And you can get it on Kindle, or I believe you could order even a paperback as well on Amazon. So let's get started. I guess the first thing I sort of wanted to preface before we hear a little bit about both of you is I thought it was interesting. It's in this week's Torah portion that we learn about an interesting mitzvah. It's actually the most amount of mitzvot in one Torah portion is in this week's Torah portion. And there's this one mitzvah about burying a dead person that goes to war. It's a long details. I don't want to get into it because I want us to have the opportunity to hear from you guys. But what's really interesting is that there's the wording over there describes that this individual doesn't have, should we stop a second?
No.
So this individual is called a person that dies and doesn't have someone to bury them. They're called a met mitzvah. There is a greater mitzvah to bury an individual that doesn't have someone that could speak for them to take care of them after their life. And that language is used actually in a couple of different places, always with regarding mitzvah to be there, especially for those, and to be a voice for those and to take care of those that are voiceless, for those that can't speak for themselves. And one of the things, as I read your incredible book, and you guys are in for a treat, anyone that's going to read it is going to enjoy it. It's written so beautifully and so eloquently, and it's the story. First of all, there's the history, the background, and then there's the story of Lutzi and what he had gone through and his family had gone through in the Holocaust, and what Vera had gone through and her family in the Holocaust. But the thing that struck me, and I want to ask you about that, and maybe that could be our starting point, is that there's like this duality in the book. There's the message that you find important, each of you. What is the most important message that you want to give that the readers walk away with? And then I also, there's like this undertone where you're also speaking for all those that didn't make it out of there and are not here to speak. And for those that did make it out but couldn't speak. So there's that duality, both your individual message, but also the message that you're carrying. I don't want to call it a burden because you carry it so gracefully, but there's almost this additional subliminal message. And you speak for so many, I believe, those that we didn't get to meet. A world that you touched, a world that you touched that we don't have access to other than through you guys. So please tell us a little bit about, maybe each of you can share what is the most important message that you have introduced yourself and the message that you want people to walk away with. And in addition, what message do you believe you're conveying for others?
Well, just to start with, thank you for inviting us. It's a privilege. Actually, this is our second event with the JWC in Atlanta. And I should say that largely because of our meeting in January and the invitation of Batsheva, we decided from the response of the people and some of the people who previously heard our presentation that it's high time to write things down, because as we started out our book, after 75 years, fewer and fewer people are around who really are able to say anything from first hand. Actually, I saw a book a few days ago where somebody is a third generation writing about the experience of the grandparents. So I think we are privileged that we are still here and we are able to tell our stories to not only to the Jewish community, but the whole world, because fewer and fewer people even remembers the times, and lots of people are denying it. And I think it's very important to emphasize that we want to be the witness of the era, so there will be no question that what happened. So that's basically what our message tried to convey, that what happened, and not only what happened, what's happening today, and how we survived, and how we build our life, and how we can show to the future generation there is hope when you are work on it. So I don't know if you want to comment anything.
Well, he said it so well, as usual, that all I can say is my memories are the memories of other people, because I was too young to actually remember what happened. So what I remember is what I heard from relatives, from my friends, and my parents, and the people who were hiding me. And for years and years, did not happen, because everybody wanted to forget what happened. For some people, it was a shameful period. For some people, they could not understand why they were selected and punished for something that they didn't see any reason for, especially for the Hungarian Jews who contributed so much to the culture and advancement of Hungary. Why they were punished when they felt so Hungarian, first Hungarian, and maybe second of all, Jewish. So now I said so many things, I don't know where I started and where I continue, but I let you, Batsheva, take over and guide us.
No, this is unbelievable. You know, it's interesting that you mentioned about the Hungarian aspect, specifically because I have my grandfather on my father's side, as you know, is from Poland, and he never spoke Polish after the Holocaust. And there was no sentiment about how beautiful Poland was, or, you know, he never spoke about it positively in any way, shape, or form. But my grandmother, who is Vera's mother's sister, she, first of all, they spoke Hungarian. That was the language my mother and her spoke. I know a couple of words. I know Hodvod and Nagyon Szép and Igen, and I could count to 10. That's basically it. But they spoke Hungarian, which was so different than the Polish survivors. And when she would talk about Hungary, it was like, whoa, the beauty. And I could never understand that, because it was so different than my experience with my Polish family. So it's interesting that you mentioned that the affront was almost more hurtful, because they did feel so integrated in so many ways.
Just to continue the thoughts, I would like to contrast with a few words the Jewish presence in Hungary as opposed to the rest of, especially Eastern Europe. In Eastern Europe, the Jews were actually, they didn't call them ghettos, but it was a shtetl where that's the only places they could live for centuries. And they were not allowed to go into the cities, and certainly they were not able to participate not only in a political scene, but not even in a commercial scene. They, in contrast, at least for 50 years before the end of World War I, there were Jewish generals in the Hungarian army. They were 56% of all the gold medalists in the Olympics, Jews. They were in about 1/3 in a Congress and in a Senate in Hungary. And 50% of all the doctors and lawyers were Jews, and 75% of all the industry was established by Jewish people. So in contrast, as I said, Poland and Ukraine and Russia, and even in France and other Western European countries, the presence of the Jews were not very significant in leading areas.
And as you mentioned in your book, first of all, I found, we'll go back to the history soon, because I found so many things fascinating that I didn't even know about. For example, the relationship between the king of Khuzar and the Jews.
Right.
In that area.
Right.
I thought that was incredible. I mean, that blew my mind. But I want to talk about the part in the book where you both relate that while you thought, or while the Jewish Hungarians thought that they would be spared, they weren't. And they experienced the horrific, indescribable, really, cruelty that human beings inflicted on them, human beings that they thought would be their allies. And I one of the things that, when you read the book, and also when you meet the two of you, you guys are both so full of hope and optimism and joy. And my question is, how? How?
If I may start, first of all, we are together. So we try to work out the problems together. We have done so many things together. For one thing, we were both runners, and we used to run every single morning for over 40 years.
Wow, I didn't realize that it was that long.
Almost 50 years, every morning together. And during these mornings or evenings, or whenever we had a chance to do that together, we were able to discuss, analyze, and work out our problems. We still do, even though I'm no longer running. Lottie is still continuing to run.
And for both of us.
For both of us, I guess.
I love that.
But,
well, we might mention over here that you swim every day as well, right?
yes, I do. So it was easy to deal with problems when you can talk about it. If one of us felt down, the other one was able to uplift the other, and never let each other reach that point that we would despair.
So I hear you
I
saying
think
two things. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I guess I tried to relate more of the survivor after the Holocaust. I think that's somewhat I want to imply. We both felt that so few of us were survived of our generation, that it's our duty for the ones who are not here anymore to show the world that what could have been done had those people not murdered. Just to give you a few examples, several of my surviving friends, they were achieved. One who passed away recently was a top professor at McGill University of neurology and one of the pioneers in muscular dystrophy. And I had friends who were in the space research, and I myself as a professor. But anyway, what we really try to show the world and to succeed, that it was not only killing people, but also killing ideas and killing opportunities for many of them who are not around here.
And I think that that's the undertone or the undercurrent of the book, which is, as I mentioned in the beginning, you speak not only for yourselves, but for all the lost opportunities and all the lost people, all the lost lives. And we do see by the Holocaust survivors in general that they sort of doubled down and worked so hard and had a tremendous amount of impact on the world. And that does teach, I think, all of us the value of a life And not that a life can be measured by anything, not even a life's work, but it gives you some inkling of understanding that every life can literally alter the universe. And that's definitely something you guys live out in such a powerful way. I did hear, Vera, you saying that, if I could summarize the three things I heard from both of you, is A, you were together, not being alone. B, you were able to speak to each other, communicating that which is painful, challenging, and working that through. And Lutzi, you were sharing that you felt a responsibility to live like that. And then instead of that being a burden, it became sort of like the wind beneath your sails that moved you further than probably most people.
Well, definitely. And well, I have to say that Lottie is such an amazing person. And yeah, well,
Aren't they the cutest couple? I have to like stop a second. The cutest couple ever, like seriously.
That he never gives up. He really never gives up. I had to learn this from him when we got married, because sometimes when things were a bit difficult, I would have given up, and he made me go on and no matter what, continue. And in the end, it was so assuring that I was able to do it, what I would never have found out that I could. So he
believed in you.
Yes.
Perhaps that's another ingredient. And the way you talk about each other, I think there's two ingredients over here. A, you believed in each other, and B, there's so much love over there. And I do believe that that's probably the biggest antidote, to all the hate that that you guys experienced.
And to expand these thoughts, it's not only the two of us, but we feel fortunate to surrounded by loving family, including you, and
I feel the same way.
Many friends all around the world and family all around the world. And I think that helped, plus being part of the Jewish people. I am very proud to be a Jew. I think the Jewish people contributed to history and to mankind disproportionately, and they still do. And I hope the world recognizes that and give us enough credit for it.
Well, I certainly think it's an incredible thing from a Holocaust survivor to say, I'm proud to be a Jew, because I could imagine, I can't imagine, but knowing that you wouldn't have experienced the horrific experiences that you did had you not been Jewish. I think one would think that maybe it would lend itself to feeling less proud or less wanting. And the fact that you say it so proudly and so matter-of-factly is mind-blowing to me and incredibly touching. What is that? Like, how would you explain that? Being proud of being Jewish, even though it sometimes means being slated for annihilation.
Well, I myself, who was brought up in an Orthodox Jewish environment, not feeling proud being Jewish, it was almost considered a sin. And as a child, to the extent as a child, I used to feel sorry for all my non-Jewish friends who did not have this privilege to be born as a Jew. Yeah, you may continue.
Well, I pointed out the contribution of the Jews made to the world. So let me step back a little bit. After the Holocaust, there were really two directions from the survivors. Some of the people felt that it couldn't happen to us if we were not Jews or we were not openly Jews. So this was the direction where in Hungary and many other places, actually, we touched this in our book. You probably know about the Marranos in Spain and Portugal, the ones who were forced converted. Well, after the war, the Jews that, themselves tried to be invisible as Jews. As a matter of fact, to the point that they didn't mention to their children their heritage, which kicked back, of course, because they found out later. Unfortunately, some of them didn't know, and they became leaders of anti-Semitic movement. But on the other hand, I don't know the percentage, but I would say probably at least half, if not more, felt that just because what happened, and I already pointed out before, we have to prove the world that what we can do and what they missed by killing all our
What they lost
our
out on,
people.
what we all
And,
lost out
I
on.
think, yeah, so, you know, many of us felt that I think we have to work harder and achieve more than anybody else in order to prove that what the world did to us.
You know, it's interesting. I think when I think of the two of you, I think there's actually a story in the Talmud that when a person comes up to the other end, right? You lived a long life, you get up there and you stand before the Almighty and you have to give a recounting of your life. And God says, why didn't you do X, Y, or Z? So the individual, I suffered so much in life. I was so poor. What do you want from me? And the Talmud over there says, well, Hillel, one of our greatest sages, suffered a lot and he was so poor, and he didn't use it as an excuse. In fact, he used that as the wind that propelled him further. And it gives a bunch of examples like that. And I think that the two of you, and really all of the Holocaust survivors, and also those that didn't survive, we don't have excuses in life. You know, we cannot sit back on our laurels and throw ourselves pity parties. We can throw ourselves pity parties once in a blue moon, but we can't stay there. Because if you guys could do this and could create such a beautiful, happy, joyous, productive, impactful life, having gone through the horrific experiences that you have gone through, it gives us, all of us, I think, the license, the permission to sail through challenges, or to, you know, to go through them and still to come out stronger the other end.
Let me just add another unknown to this discussion. I think we have to look back also our roots of our own family. I constantly described, and I think I maybe even mentioned in a book, the reason why I feel optimistic and looking forward, because I think from my parents, I really got everything what one could hope for. I was never criticized to the point that I felt insecure. They gave me so much confidence, and furthermore, both my father and my mother.
One second. I want to actually focus on that. I think that is so critical. JWC Atlanta is really an organization for Jewish moms, and I think what you're sharing over here is maybe the best parenting lesson anyone will ever hear in their entire life. So, can you start over again? Just what it is that you attribute all of the success to. You believe that you got everything that you needed from your parents, and that is.
Well, I think what's most important, I thought that approval of my parents, and they always thought whatever decision I made, of course, I didn't do anything bad, let's put it this way, but nevertheless, I had the support from early childhood. And I think the wisdom, especially of my mother, as I started to say, helped not only to survive us, but the extended family. We were 13 of my mother's family together who survived, including my grandfather, who was already 75. And many decisions had to be made through that period, where if you wouldn't stay together, then probably none of us would have survived. At least 4 occasions where we were certainly been sent to the gas chambers to Auschwitz. But because of the togetherness and the closeness of the family, which up to today I feel that I should continue and carry on with my own family, it helped to survive and to be what I think I am today.
So that unconditional acceptance, that complete love, the trust that they placed in you, they believed that you were a human being that was capable of making good decisions, that complete acceptance. And it sounds like holistically, the acceptance of each other as a family, not just from mother to son, not just from father to son, but as a family, you believe that that's what one of the key ingredients to not only surviving, but to thriving like that.
Unfortunately, today we live in a different society. The extended family are far apart, but fortunately, just like in the Zoom and the Skypes, I think we can overcome this difficulty. So I still feel that it's very important for us to reach out to, or not only to our children, but to the extended family, and to show understanding, approval, and advice, or taking advice from each other.
I think that is so so beautiful. As I think as mothers over here, and I'm sure also fathers that are listening, but I think it's there's so much information out there about what to do right as a mother, as a father, what's right, what's wrong. And I think what you're saying over here is that really all the stuff is a lot of noise, but the most important thing that a human being needs is unconditional love and acceptance. And that could give them all the fertile ground that they need to grow, no matter what they go through in life.
I may add that our connection, you and Betsheva, you and I, didn't start early on. We knew of your existence.
And we admired you too.
And we listened to some of your accomplishments, but we really didn't personally connect. We talked about you with your mother, but it's never too late. And look what came out of it. We developed such attachment and love for you.
And we feel the same way, and my kids feel the same way. Yeah. And it has such a healing power.
Yes.
You're right. It's never too late.
Yes.
If anyone over here is listening and they have family and they want to reach out, I think we underestimate the power of connection that family can bring.
Absolutely.
And friends.
Yes. And friends.
As well. And I'm sure that you are surrounded by lots of beautiful people, and I think that helps you in difficult times. And I think it's important, not only the family, but the friends as well.
Yeah, friends that are like family, right? There's both of that. I want to just end off and ask both of you, in your stories, you do share about those who didn't make it out. I know, Lutzi, your family of the 13, I mean, the amount of miracles that both of you had experienced, to get out of there. I mean, my heart like skips every time, like when I was reading it, even though I know the end of the stories, but because I heard you before, but it's petrifying, and the fact that you're here today is beyond miraculous. But there are those that didn't make it out, and if you had one message from them that you believe they would want the world to know, what would that be?
I would say, don't forget us. Remember us. Keep our memory alive. Pass on this memory to the future generations, to your children, their children, on and on. So their life was not in vain. They made an impact, and we will not forget them.
And before I ask that same question of Lutzi, what would you say we could do in order to honor those lives besides remembering them? I'm thinking of Lali in specific over here, but those of you who heard Vera and Lutzi's talk, those of you who read the book or are going to read the book, I had no idea until this winter that my mother's first cousin, Vera's brother, was 12 years old and was killed in Auschwitz.
Two of them and her father.
And right, and her, my great grandfather and two brothers, and I just had I there's so much we could go into that part. There's so much I didn't know. it's mind blowing to me that the year is 2020, and I am learning so much from Letzi and Vera about my family. I read that book even from after speaking to you guys, but when I read the book, I took screenshots and I sent to my family's WhatsApp just pictures I never thought I'd see, or, you know, like just little tidbits even of a world that's completely gone. But I guess my question is, now that we know about them, there's no way we're going to forget them. My daughter put Lali as her screensaver. You know, we talk about it all the time now. But what could we do, or what do you think as actions, all of us can do that would honor that memory?
Well, I think you personally are doing more than anybody can hope for. The fact that you are bringing this Zoom together and we can tell our stories, as well as when you invited us to Atlanta and talk about our history and about the last one, Lolly. And when I said that we survived, it's only on my mother's side. My father's side, there were several of his brothers and sisters who didn't survive. But in any rate, I think the most important.
And a lot of your friends, your classmates didn't survive. That's whenever that picture and.
Well, yeah, and many of you know the class. Huh?
You want to show your class picture there?
I'm just going to make sure that there's no questions on Facebook, because I don't know why, but
If you see this picture, out of the 40 or close to 40 kids, only about 9 or 10 survived. And the man in the middle, not only he was a teacher, but he was a principal. It's in a Jewish school. Very last day of the war, there were 250 people from my hometown in Germany, and 16 SS, young SS soldiers. They were not more than 17, 18 years old. They killed all of them, just the very last day of the war. And you wonder how much hatred and how much indoctrination these people had when they knew that the war is over. And their most important thing was not to fight the enemy, but kill the innocent Jews. So I think what I can suggest is that we have to talk more and more about this, not only to our children, but to anybody. And the whole world should learn about this. And other than that, I really think that many of our Jewish organizations, including the Yad Vashem and the Holocaust Museum in Washington and here in Florida and all, and in Atlanta too, I'm sure, we are constantly giving lectures to kids who are non-Jews so they could learn about it. And we already did that ourselves, went to school and actually our first presentation was about 15 years ago, 14 years ago in Ohio, in a public school where only very few Jewish kids were, but our granddaughter was there, Rachel, and many of them, they never heard about it, and it had so much impact on them. I think they continue to talk about, and of course, it's not only us, the survivors, but everybody who has a knowledge should continue this to spread and talk about it to the world.
What do you think puts out the fire of hatred? We'll probably I have so many questions I want to ask, but what puts out that fire?
To prove ourselves who we are. Let them know that they wanted to victimize us, but we are not victims. We have overcome, and
I love that.
we are caring human beings who care about everybody, and I think giving, helping human beings we are, and that's how they should know us.
Unfortunately, jealousy was one of the sources of anti-Semitism. When Jews are very successful, many people feel that they are taking their place. Actually, recently we just saw an article about one of the Hungarian politicians who was saying that historically the Jews came in and they took oral opportunities away. And just to give you some idea, there were so far, as far as I know, 12 or 13 Nobel Prize winners in Hungary, and 11 of them are Jews. And were they not coming, you know, some of the other countries don't have disproportionately so much Jewish Nobel Prize winners like the surrounding countries. But in any rate, jealousy is, you know, but it's not a problem. I rather feel envied than sorry. And I think that's the way we should look at it. So Vera put her finger on it. We should prove that we can do our best, and not only for ourselves, but for humanity. And I think the Jews in this country and many other places were always leaders for human rights and anti-racism and everything else. Unfortunately, we are not always appreciated for it, but another story.
That is for sure. But I think what you're touching on is so important. And I'd like to maybe finish with this part, which is that the Jewish response to hate has always been to increase love and to increase giving and to increase doing, as you said. And it may not solve the problem today or tomorrow, but in the long run, what heals the world is doing more of, not less of. Oh, 1 second here. Someone just wrote over here a message. I just got, hold on 1 second, let me see. They want a, here, please send book info. Oh, good. So people want the book info. So just so you know, everybody, Karen posted the link of the book in the title of the class, I think it is, and we'll repost it underneath this Facebook post. And if you Google, I mean, if you go to Amazon and you press in, if you even do Laszlo and Vera Adler or any combination, it'll come up pretty much right away. And the name of the book again is, oh, now I shut it down. Could you hold up the title again, the cover of it, so people could see it?
Yeah. It's, if you put one of our name on, immediately shows up on Amazon.
That's how I found it originally. I forgot the name and then I like just put,
This is the colors that you will see. This is the back cover right here. Can you see that?
You put some family photos.
Oh, over there. I know there's a lot of pictures over there of my family, which is beyond moving, you know, until I didn't know that there was anyone alive that knew my great-grandmother. I didn't know that until this winter. And I learned from Vera a little bit about her. My sister's named after her. Her name was Cecilia, and her Jewish name was Tzivia. And my sister Tzivia is named after her. And as I mentioned, my daughter Racheli is named after my grandmother. Her name was Gabriela. And her Hungarian name and her Jewish name was Rachel. And she passed away 5 weeks before my daughter was born. And on Saturday night, actually, as I mentioned earlier, is her day of passing, which is the same day of passing as my dad's. And I feel so lucky to have a piece of my family that I didn't even know. It's not only, I knew you guys existed, but I didn't know you, of course, and also that you guys are so connected to that world, that you knew my grandfather, who I never met, that you knew my great-grandmother that I never met, my great aunts, my great uncles, your mother. My mother was telling me when I asked her about it, she said, Vera's mother she was the oldest, right?
Right.
She said she was the leader of the pack. Whatever she said, of 8 children, whatever she said, my mother's mother, who is the youngest, one of the younger ones, right? She said, whatever her big sister said, Yankanemi, right? That was her name?
That's right. Correct.
Yankanemi, yeah. I think it's Schroeder.
Old. That was it. Like that you followed that no matter what. So it sounds like they were all the incredible families.
She was a very serious woman.
Well, it's not mentioned yet, but she survived Auschwitz, and
yes,
that certainly contributed to her fear, and also I think suspicion toward many people.
Understandably.
She had a philosophy that most people are bad, and fortunately,
I believe my grandmother did as well. Just saying. I don't, you know, but
luckily we both feel that the humanity in general is good, and we have some and a very small percentage. Unfortunately, they can be very powerful,
I
but
agree.
there's very small percentage of the world who can do all these harms.
I love that you're saying that because, again, coming from Holocaust survivors, that is the most powerful message, to say that you've witnessed the worst of humanity, right? I mean, I think that's very fair to say. You witnessed the worst that humanity has to offer, and to still be able to say that humanity is good to its core, it is kind, it is loving, and yes, there are those that are chose to do horrible things, but that's not the majority. I think that carries such a heavy weight, and is so precious. And yeah, sorry.
You know, as you probably know, and it's in the book, we do quite a bit of traveling. And in spite of the fact that many Jews feel that they never want to step into Germany, we spend time in Germany. And I can honestly say that very few places I've been where you can see so much reckoning of what they did to the Jewish people. Every small town we went to, there are some memorials, and whatever reason, Jewish life is thriving in.
And they show and feel deep shame for what happened.
Especially the younger generation, the Germans.
The younger generation, Germans.
And
You know,
Yeah,
my son's therapist at one point was a German woman whose family were Nazis. And she's one of the holiest people I've ever met. And she carries such a burden and feels such a need to heal that which she never chose to do or be a part of, but she's one of the most magnificent human beings I've ever met. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that she is making a conscious choice to live her life so differently than that which her parents, grandparents did. And I think that what you're saying is really powerful. They really did own it.
Well, just the idea that the family who were sheltering me, hiding me, they were of German origin. And they lived in a community of people who were as well German origins. And they, nevertheless, they took that risk, being among those people who could have given them away, and they did, and take that risk to save a Jewish child.
That's right. That's right. And you guys have submitted the documentation. Hopefully they'll be recognized as righteous among the nations in Yad Vashem.
Yeah, we submitted it, but because of the COVID-19, everything goes very slow. We did it about 3 months ago, and it's still not approved, but I'm sure it's going to be, because she was an exceptional, not only saving Vera, but we found out later that she saved many other people as well. So it's
So heartwarming.
Very brave woman, very brave woman.
Very warming. Well, thank you so much for sharing your hearts, for sharing your stories, for the courage to speak, and not just for yourselves, but for those that cannot speak because that was taken away from them. Thank you for what you are in our home, in our family. For me, the amount of healing, I feel like you're a healing balm, really, for so much. Not just, and I'm sure not just for me, but for anyone that gets to hear you guys speak or to get to know you or read the book. I encourage everyone to read the book, read it with your kids. Maybe not the youngest ones, but it's written really well. It's written like a conversation. You feel like you're sitting in the living room with Lottie and Vera and just, drinking a cup of tea or coffee and hearing their stories that are real. So thank you so much for keeping all those memories alive and sharing them with all of us.
It is us who is thanking you.
Thanking you. Yeah. And
we are very fortunate
to connect with you, and we are looking forward to do more of that. And love to all of you. And thanks for everybody who listened.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. And can't wait to do this again sometime soon.
Thank you.
Regards to everyone.
Take care, all of you.